If you're watching this at night, you'd better not continue, because this story isn't about making things up. It's about a house that notices when people look at it, and how sometimes it might look back. I've warned you. In one small town, where almost all the houses were the same, there was one that stood out too much. It was completely pink. Not just light or pastel, but a strange, almost unnatural shade of pink that looked bright even at night. The locals said that it used to be ordinary, but after one renovation, it was repainted. And since then, it seemed to have become different. A girl named Lisa lived in this house. She was about 16, and she lived there with her mother. Her father had left a few years ago, and since then, the house had seemed too big for the two of them, especially in the evenings when the corridors became quiet and the walls began to creak for no reason. Lisa didn't like her house. She often said that there was something wrong with him, but her mother attributed it all to her imagination. Old houses are always noisy, especially at night, but Lisa noticed things that were difficult to explain. For example, windows. Every morning, she found them slightly ajar, although she always made sure everything was closed before going to bed. At first, she thought it was her mother, but she swore she didn't touch the windows at all. And then there were the sounds. Sometimes, in the dead of night, Lisa woke up to the feeling that someone was walking around the house. Gradually, carefully. The footsteps were almost inaudible, but too rhythmic to be just the creaking of the floor. One day, she even went out to check. The hallway was empty, but when she was about to return to the room, it seemed to her that something moved at the end of the corridor. Something dark, elongated, too tall to be human. She turned on the light. Nothing. After this incident, Lisa started locking the door every night. Still, it seemed to her that it wasn't enough. But the real fear didn't start inside the house and outside. One evening, when the sun was already setting, Lisa was standing at the window of her room. She was just looking at the street, the sparse passers-by, the street lights, the usual quiet neighborhood, and suddenly she noticed him. On the other side of the road, a figure stood between the trees, very high, abnormally high, in black as if in a suit, and at first she thought it was just a man, until she realized he didn't have a face. Generally, smooth, white surface, without eyes, without a mouth, without anything. Lisa blinked, and the figure was already standing a little closer. She hadn't seen him move. He just happened to be closer. My heart started beating faster. She moved away from the window, but after a couple of seconds, she looked again. And this time, he was standing right in front of her house and watched. Although he didn't have eyes, Lisa definitely felt that he was looking at her. She abruptly closed the curtains, and at that moment, she received a strange message on her phone. From an unknown number, there was only one word: "Don't look." And after that, in the house, someone knocked softly on the door of her room. Lisa froze. The knock was repeated, quiet, slow, exactly 3 times. She stared at the door and couldn't move. Mom never knocked like that. She was always calling my name, always saying something before she came in. And then there's just a knock. Again. 3 times. Lisa picked up the phone. Her hands were shaking so much that she could barely hold him. She texted her mom, "Are you at my door?" The answer came almost immediately. "No, I'm in the kitchen." At that moment, the door handle twitched slightly. Gradually. It was as if someone from the other side was trying to open it, but was in no hurry. I checked it out. Lisa abruptly stepped back. My heart was pounding so loudly that it seemed to be audible all over the house. And then the phone vibrated again. A new message from the same unknown number. He's already inside. The light in the room flickered. Once, second. And for a second, everything was plunged into darkness. When the light came back, the door was ajar, just a little bit. Although Lisa definitely remembered locking it, cold air was coming out of the crack. Real, icy, as if there was no longer a house behind the door, but something else. She couldn't stand it. She ran up and abruptly slammed the door, locking it again. But at the same moment, footsteps sounded already inside the room, right behind her back. Very slow, very heavy. She didn't want to turn around, generally, but the feeling was so strong that she couldn't stand it. And I looked. In the corner of the room, near the ceiling, he was standing, too tall to fit in the room. His arms were stretched out along the walls as if he just fit into the space. Without a face, no movement. But Lisa knew for sure that he was watching. She screamed and ran out of the room without even thinking. The hallway seemed longer than usual. The light blinked and the walls seemed to shift. She ran to the kitchen, to her mother. But there was no kitchen. Just one more corridor. And more and more. The house has changed. He got bigger, deeper. It was as if something had appeared inside him that hadn't been there before. She heard footsteps behind her. He didn't run. He never ran. But he was always closer. Lisa ran into the living room and saw the window, the big window that faced the street. She rushed to him. It was the only chance. She looked out, and she froze. There was no street outside, only darkness. And in that darkness, there were dozens of similar figures. Tall ones, faceless ones, the motionless ones. They were all looking at the house, at her. The phone vibrated in her hand again. Last message. You're already home. The lights finally went out. And the next morning, the neighbors noticed that the pink house had become a little brighter. It was as if the paint had been renewed by itself. And the windows, all the windows were open.